And then you had some businesses that would join, and I could see some of them had an expectation that they were going to solve their problems. And it was like, your product's not that great. You don't have your business together. How is that community going to save you?
And good morning.
Morning.
Another episode of Expandable. So if you don't know, which you probably do, I have a podcast called Exploring Growth.
Yes.
Check it out. And I have a guest that is coming on soon.
Okay.
And they're like a consulting firm. They help kind of mid-sized cities, emerging cities, become more innovation-centric. And they work with entrepreneurs that want to come in and plant roots, and they help kind of build, I would say, a community that is built around the needs of what that city sees for themselves, what they want to become. Like, you look at Austin, like that city, who knows if they had consultants or not, but that city over...
Kidding me? Every city has consultants. They don't do shit.
It's so true.
I've been in a lot
Who doesn't,
of...
the consultant or
the cities? I've been involved in a lot of stuff, going to city commissions throughout, like Daytona Beach, Holly Hill, DeLand, Orlando, all of these cities, and you've got and none of them take any ownership. And if there's an idea, all that is, let's go get a consultant and see what they have to say, and then they piss away the city's money on a $50,000 consultant that says, we need to bring people to our downtown. Is what Daytona Beach did.
And they don't do anything about it.
No, they don't do anything about it. Or then it's like...
Because then they try to do something about it, and everybody says, we can't do that.
No kidding. It's common sense. Okay, bring downtown. Well, first thing is, make it safe. Get rid of the bums that are shitting everywhere. I mean...
I didn't know this.
Yes.
I didn't know how spicy this was going to be, but pretty spicy. It's good. Anyways, that's not really where we're going with this. Where we're going with it is community. All right. And it's a totally different direction.
All right, good. I'm down with communities.
Yeah. So my question is, let me kind of set this up for you.
Okay.
What's the role of a company or an organization in a community as they are growing, right? As they're getting started and then growing. We'll talk maybe first stage and second stage. And the reason why I'm asking this is for relatively young companies, should they be thinking about their community during that stage at all? And I'm not talking about nonprofits and people who kind of rely on that,
building a business in a certain community.
Yeah. For-profit businesses that are about revenue, should they just be focused on revenue and product market fit? And I mean, you can kind of see what I think. If so, at what point should they expand their thinking and say, hey, we are here in DeLand, or we're here in whatever city. We should think about our community in XYZ way. And the reason I'm asking is because you're a community bank.
Yeah.
Right? Now you're almost 100 years old, not you, but the bank. And so, that kind of begs the question of did the bank start out with the community in mind, which I presume they probably did, but it's just the whole idea of your relationship with the community. When does that start? And do you want to put the cart before the horse, or how's that? What is your thinking on all that?
So, Surety started originally to get deposits locally and to loan locally.
Okay.
So that has always stayed still on the bank, where you have a concerted focus to that physical location. Now, that has changed in the banking world because my competition does not subscribe by we're staying in one community, and then it used to be in banking that you were just competing against other banks. Well, that's not the case. You're competing against credit card companies.
Fintechs,
you're competing against
all the stuff.
Fintech, payment providers, and everything else. Yeah. But yes, we still have a focus on our community, but you have to be cognizant of everything else, around it, and create communities that aren't necessarily geography, but like-minded, whether you're into a manufacturing community, like that you're focusing on just manufacturing, that can be your community. For the most part, the community banks don't exist anymore, at least a lot in Florida, because the ones that are starting up, they call themselves community, plan on selling in 5 to 10 years. So you're not doing anything to help anybody but your own pocketbook, which is fine, but I'm all for honesty, you know, so go out and actually, you know, you're not going to benefit the community if you sold and now depression hit and you know, you can't work out the loans or anything now, and you're just, the big bank now are going to foreclose because they have to, and there's nobody there to talk to. Great. You just screwed over your community, and that's what most of them do.
Let's take a second there, because I think that's hard for the average business owner, consumer to understand what you're saying. And I understand it because I've seen behind the scenes. So I would parse it from a layman to say there are banks that take the word community and they leverage their actual community, people, businesses in the community, and they leverage that word community to write a bunch of loans that may not actually be good loans.
Yes.
They may be favorable to the business so they can get the loan, but they're not favorable to the bank, which is a bad thing for the business.
Correct. And if your intention is to sell sell in 5 to 10 years,
right?
Banks don't sell to another, a small bank doesn't sell to another small bank.
Yeah.
It sells to a larger bank. It's not a community bank.
Correct.
So
they're typically
not going into it for
regional bank.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. You know, and then on the outside, when I think of, you know, being in DeLand, being a community workforces, you know, we haven't necessarily had an issue of getting quality people in our area, but as you grow, there is going to have times. Luckily, you know, we've got, you know, in Florida, if I was a manufacturing company, we would have difficulty finding labor, or qualified engineers to work on equipment. You know, so you don't typically have those engineers throughout Florida that you would in northern areas. So that would make a difference of if you have to have certain job skills and are they living in their community to work there physically.
That's a great
that
bridge,
would be So that would have to be cognizant into it. You know, if you're in insurance and, you know, if you're insurance person, then that would be a lot of community involvement. Those are the people that are going to see you. You know, everybody has to buy insurance. If you're going to buy insurance from State Farm, you're going to get probably the same, you know, the same price no matter what State Farm agent you use, but then you would want somebody within your community you can talk to and you've got a relationship with. And
in theory, to thank them for not covering you once you have to use the insurance.
Or, you know, when you do have, you know, a flood in your house, you know, pipe burst, and you call them, they're like,
they show up and they're like,
well, you got to talk to the underwriter. Well, I thought you were going to do that for me.
Yeah. They're like,
oh,
that's
no,
not
I don't. And you're like, yeah, thank you.
They just put a personal spin on the, I'm not going to cover this.
Exactly. Like, thank you. And then meanwhile, I actually had that happen, you know, during COVID it happened, and well, we can't do that, or we can't call. And it's like, but I see you on Facebook in the community acting like you're helping anyone, and I'm with you, and I got a need, and you're not calling the underwriting to get them out here to actually, like, I can't operate my kitchen, and we just had a lockdown.
Yeah,
I need somebody out here so I can, you know, claim it so I can fix it myself. You know, meanwhile, I was seeing that guy like all over. Oh, we're at this charity. We're at this.
Marketing.
I need help. Thank you. Yeah.
It makes me think of like back in the day. At some point, there was no such thing as organic food. It was just food that you grew and you eat, right? And then a lot of things happened, and now there's organic food, and it's kind of like. The real American dream should be that every individual household could be self-funded, because at some point there wasn't insurance. Yes. And now it's mandatory.
Oh, so now we're jumping to insurance?
No, I'm just saying, like, it's I'm trying to draw a bridge here from what you're saying to the community, but it's true. Like I think that, let's draw this back. I think that as a business, you should be cognizant of your community, but I think it can't come at the fall of your revenue of your business, and you can't, and vice versa. You can't be all revenue. You do need to think about your community.
Well, and then I think too, no good deed goes unpunished. If you think that hey, I opened up this business and I got some tax incentives because the community brought me. Great. Accept it for what it is.
Right.
I wouldn't have any expectations of, afterwards. It's kind of like, the, what is it? After on Friday, people love having retail downtowns. Mm-hmm. But I don't see how any of the retail places even can make it because I don't see many people buying anything. They walk in the store and don't buy it.
Yeah.
And people love to talk about taking care of the community, but what they say and they actually do are two different things.
Two different things, yeah.
They don't. They don't generally do it. They're still going to go to Amazon. If it's 50 cents cheaper, they're not going to go to you down the road. They're just going to assume it's that.
Yeah.
Years ago, my father had a hardware store. Traditional little hardware store had a little bit of everything. So, and one thing that I found out was amazing is we had bought like 6 lawnmowers and they were $20 cheaper than Walmart. But Walmart still sold because everybody just had that expectation that Walmart's cheaper.
Yeah.
So it was like you even have that.
Yeah.
And it's hard. So even when you had that special, you were cheaper and you were local. Now they just went and they believed everything that Walmart's cheaper on everything. They're not smart enough to realize that, no, Walmart's like a gas station. They're not making any money on gas. They're upcharging on everything inside. That you would have gotten cheaper at the grocery store, but no, you didn't prepare. So you needed that fountain drink immediately. You needed that, power drink, whatever. And now you just spent $15 on, stuff that you ate in 4 minutes that provided no nutrition.
Yeah. I think Walmart could be an excellent case study on community because there's so many rabbit trails you can go down there. I mean, the products they sell.
Or the dollar stores, that are in all the rural areas and, they lie to you, oh, it's smaller. Yeah, but per ounce, you just jack that way up.
Yeah,
but
it's $1.25, but
it's $10 stores
like
now or whatever.
20% smaller. Yeah.
Correct. But yes, give to your community, support it. I'm a big fan of Rotarians around the U.S. and Rotary chapters throughout organizations. They do a lot, service above self is the model, and spent several years in Rotary, enjoyed the aspect. And, but the people that get the most out of Rotary are the ones that give and have no expectations of coming back. And that is rewarding. So I think that is what you need to kind of go into.
It's sort of a
the
version
communities. Have no expectation what that community is going to do for you.
Yeah.
Just provide for that community, and then things will come back.
Selfless service to the community.
Correct, because if you're looking like if that community is going to take care of me, it didn't happen.
That's the kind of the inception point of this question is like there's this weird friction between a business trying to make revenue and have projections they're trying to hit, and community and serve the community. And I think that those two things are at odds so much that you have to make a decision at some point in your business, whether it's early on or later, because as soon as you open your doors, lots of people in the community are going to ask you for money to sponsor this event and be at this thing.
Oh yeah, I mean, you wouldn't believe the
so
amount
then you're
that
okay.
we
Well,
get.
what do I do with that? Like, what do I go to this event? Do I sponsor? Do I put the flag up? Do I do this? What do I do? And so I think you kind of have to make a decision for yourself on how you're growing your organization. I think one of the biggest keys you said earlier is, being cognizant of the community you're serving in light of the actual jobs that are being produced out of your company, engineers. I think that's a great way to know that you're giving back to the community because you're hiring people that are going to go and spend money in the community and live there and produce. That's a great, just standard. And then above that, it's got to be about being sustainable and making money to a large degree until you can come back and say, okay, well, do we have any values that we want to expand on that the community is involved in those as a mission?
Yes. Well, and then too, I'm thinking of my prime, I believe, executives, had some move over here for the position. Yeah. And so what was great about that was we do have a community that is, very enjoyable to live. Mm-hmm. It is, as far as in Florida go, lower cost than a lot of Florida. and you've got a high value. You do have some land. You can get to the beaches closer. So we have a ton to offer in the community.
Yeah.
So I'm confident that, you know, I can attract executives, pending that you have the solid pay and you are a beacon of sound trust and capital. Yeah. So nobody wants to move to take a job at a startup too much. Like I wouldn't want to necessarily do that. I would have to be hook, line, and sinker and be a zealot for that startup.
Yeah. And usually young.
Correct.
With no family.
Yes. And you can take those risks, go all, you know, have fun with that. But, you know, if you're stable, you've got history, you can attract people to come into those communities too, to move in.
Yes. Yeah.
And then, but I do know as certain areas of the bank grow, it's going to be harder to attract, you know, say certain anti-money laundering specialists.
Yeah.
But, you know, okay, operationally and have people together, but there's certain areas where I may have to have remote employees to get the best in certain areas. But those wouldn't necessarily be the executives because they move, but now you're getting in that mid-level before you get to that.
Yeah. Like the VP level.
Yeah. Yes. You can get there. And
Yeah. It's all good things to think about. Okay, cool. Well, it's been good. I think there's I think this is worth discussing. That's why I brought it up, because it's sort of like, what is that gas in the room that you don't know, not carbon dioxide, but the one monoxide, where you don't know you're breathing it in, but then you die.
Yeah.
I feel like this is sort of like one of those where
that's a good,
it's like you're operating your business. You have all these people that come into and ask and pull all your resources and your time, and really should be focused on growing your business. And
correct,
until you get to a point where you're like, okay, I can give a little bit more of my time back.
So, you know, one thing I did notice earlier in my career, you know, and a lot, you know, 20 plus years ago, it was you enjoyed like, okay, the local chambers, you know, that was, you know, pretty big back then. That's how you meet local stuff. And I remember seeing the types of businesses that would join a lot of times as startups. And then it was just sales. So, and then you had some businesses that would join, and I could see some of them had an expectation that they were going to solve their problems. And it was like, your product's not that great. You don't have your business together. How is that community going to save you? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
The community can enhance you, but if you don't actually have a good process, a good system, a good product, good service,
that's such a great perspective.
Nothing is going to help you.
You can't lean on your community to make your business work.
No.
That is a great piece of advice, because that's, I think, what a lot of small businesses do. They think, oh, well, you know, I'll just sort of fall to the fabric of the community, and there's enough people out there that want to help me. No. The market eats businesses, and they get eaten every day. That's huge.
Yeah. So I think the final thing we should maybe rest on, like,
get
your house in order.
Yeah.
No one's going to save you.
Yeah. I like it.
All right.